for every single person who is here in this country right now and basically like suffering low cost of living, that kind of thing right there, right? The reality, whether we like to think about it or not, is that the people that you are sponsoring, right, are the people that you are hoping upon, right, to be able to make a positive change in some small way. We are not necessarily asking for the moon, the sky, the stars, but there is a hope
Of
that
some
somehow
form of contribution back to the nation.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Yamcha Sessions. Today we have Victor. Today is the 12th of October 2024, just for context, right? But a bit of context, normally we introduce our guests by giving context as to how we discovered the guest. So MJ here is our knight in shining armor, our Ajax 2010 scout level fellow over here.
2019. Investments from the past. No, so actually I watched you when you were sub 500 subs, I think. Like right at the beginning when your audio, when you're doing in the cafe and with the audio, where you could hear the background more than your guests.
Oh my
You have improved so much since. That's why I dare bring that up, right? That's one thing that caught my eye. The second thing is, I think as podcasters also, it's a pretty small field. Not because there aren't enough podcasters, right? There's this platform called KL Podcast where they
Is
have
that the event one?
like 100 podcasts on their using their space, right? I'm hyperbole, but a lot of them don't last. Somehow, I think there's a stat, right, that the average podcaster does not go past the 20th episode, something like that.
It's called pod fading.
Oh, is that so?
Pod fading. There you go.
Kevin from Renegade Radio has mentioned that.
Both our pods, all three of our pods actually have passed the 20 mark, right?
We're in the safe zone, boys.
So that's the second one is your consistency. And then the third one was the topics that you cover. The topics that you cover are generally more intellectual, educational. You touch on many different things. The people you interview also are quite high profile in this, highly credentialed, I would say. So that really caught my eye.
I think you should drop some names so that people who are listening in the first few minutes will know.
I think you interview. I mean the big ones are obvious one like Tun M, right? I guess our podcast has that commonality.
Yeah, I saw actually.
Right,
it was an interesting interview for sure.
Yeah. But it's also the ones that are not famous that are interesting. Like you will interview Harvard students from Malaysia, which is very rare.
Yeah.
We actually don't, a lot of people don't know they exist, but they exist. I think a few people, like mathematicians you got on before, if I'm not mistaken.
Linguistics girl.
Yeah.
Playing choke ball.
Linguistics girl.
Yeah. And of course you
Shout out Esther.
And you interviewed my buddy, our common buddy, Brian, who he just finished his MBA at MIT Sloan. So you're interviewing all these guys, and the reason why I say this is interesting is because I know, therefore, as a podcaster, you're mainly interested in what is interesting, not so much the name. Of course, every podcaster wants to have big names on the pod, it's natural, but I think that's where there's some sort of kindred spirit with what we do, where we just bring on people, like we will bring on people who run a retro gaming store.
100%.
Right, we'll bring on some random German, right?
Shout out,
Sorry, Goldie.
You are the glue bringing together our society.
So I know that you're passionate about what you do, and I think that's why you fit.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Maybe
having me.
no worries, man. It's a great pleasure, man. So normally we start off by understanding. So we know what you do on YouTube. You probably have a side gig because we all know here that YouTube ain't paying shit, right? But maybe we start about maybe how you started, because before this, before we started the podcast, you were saying how you studied in Taylor's.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And before this, maybe you want to talk about where you studied as well. Did you study in government school, private school, in primary?
Well, if we want to go back like really far, so I was born in Johor Bahru, but then eventually we moved really to the north of Malaysia, Kedah. Crisscross. No, seriously, it's like all over Malaysia we crisscross, bro. Like from north to south to north to south. It's kind of interesting right there. It's kind of like my educational or life journey. It's kind of like a yo-yo almost.
Oh my lord. Okay.
So I did that because of my dad's job, but then he passed away when I was 6 years old. And then eventually we moved over to KL. So I studied in a Chinese school. Shout out to Chinese school.
Wow.
So Chinese school.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
SJKC Damansara. Then later on went on to
SJKC Damansara is by Salo.
By Shah Loh Hua Xiao.
Wow, okay.
Wow. Are you student?
No.
Okay.
But I know of it. It's near where I stay. Okay, anyways.
Okay. Yeah. Then went on to SMK Damansara Utama, so government school.
Oh, okay,
Pretty
dude.
much all the way. Yeah. I still remember the
Wait, you might know Ryan.
Ryan.
Ryan Liu.
Oh.
Oh, shoot. Ryan Liu, photographer. Ryan Liu. You were around the same age.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's based in New York now. He's
Shoots for Adidas, pretty cool stuff.
Oh wow.
Yeah, bro.
Interesting. Yeah.
He's the guy that I brought up. He took photos of Del Piero, Ferdinand.
Oh right.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
He's been a patron supporter.
Yeah, from the get-go,
forever,
man.
you know. Yeah.
Shout out Patreon supporter. Okay.
Okay, from DU. And then you went into Taylor's.
Sini kami ditunjuk ajak. Okay. Anyway. It's a good song. Yeah, then I went to Taylor's
Okay.
before eventually heading off to the US to study at the University of Chicago.
Oh, wow.
But,
Economics.
the reason I mentioned this right here, yes, economics. But the reason I mentioned this right here and going back to Taylor's right here is that in my second year, I remember coming back to Malaysia for a holiday, casually driving down the road right there, looking at the place where my old school was right here and realizing that it had turned into a car park. So
My mom drives by Pavilion and says the same thing. She's like, this used to be my school. Now it's a shopping center for people from China.
Yeah. Bukit Bintang Girls' School, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, cool. Did you study any specific program in Taylor's before you went to the US? Did you do ADP or you did A levels or?
So I did what's
Canadian
called
for
the International Baccalaureate.
IB.
IB, yes.
Oh yeah, because you were Hatamas, right?
Yes,
Yeah. IB is Hatamas.
Oh, you mean you get to choose if you're in
No. Last time, if you want to do IB with Taylor's,
It was only
it's
taught in
Hatamas.
Hatamas. I
Oh,
believe.
wow. I heard it's damn difficult, right?
Well,
Oh, wait. How many A's did you get in SPM? You didn't do SPM. How many A's did you
I
get?
did do
in
SPM.
SPM, SKDU, what? You studied at
Oh,
DU.
yeah. After the, how many A's did you get in SPM?
Oh gosh, this is one of those like, 请问你拿到几个 A 啊？
He's a banana, by the
I'm a
way.
banana, bro. But it's okay.
How many A's do you get for SPM?
yeah.
Oh, that kind of interview. Okay, yes. 9.
I fucking knew it. That's how you know you can do IB, bro. When people say I do IB, I'm like, I confirm more than fucking 7A.
Hey, but you can do international business or anything of that nature.
IB.
No lah, but I mean like it's just a kind of like different educational choice, I think, for people out there. So IB stands for International Baccalaureate. So what happens is that you take 6 subjects, and basically the reason that it's different from A levels, right, is that they have this kind of educational philosophy where they say, you know what, you're not going to just study all day and cram for the exams, but instead we're gonna force you to study every single day so that you can cram for multiple exams over the entire time that you're there. And then you do a whole bunch of like different projects, coursework kind of thing. So you could think of maybe, well, A levels, right, as like basically you're practicing essentially for like a
Major,
100-meter dash basically at the end really of your AS and then later A2. But well, IB is kind of like you're doing a marathon like throughout.
I see. It's like throughout the entire couple of years, you just.
And I think
you
it's
just
Swiss,
school.
right? In like origins.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Swiss, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the Swiss love their education.
IB.
You know who else did IB, by the way? Interesting fact. First of all, KJ did IB. So then, but there's another interesting individual that also did IB. A person from Korea. Okay, I know Korea is a very big place right here, but can you
The context is just multi-layered here, my guy.
It's not even Seoul, you know.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's Korea, bro.
Korea.
Park Ji-sung? I don't know.
Kim Jong-un.
Oh, shit.
Oh wow.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes. He studied in the Swiss school, right?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So yeah, like my guy
company, yeah.
Kim Jong Un, like studied his theory of knowledge right there. He did his HLs, SLs, extended essay. So yeah,
Wow,
But
that's-
it's a fun experience though.
Wow.
But,
that's
you're
really-
absolutely right. It's not an easy experience.
It's not.
Yeah, but
I mean, I never hear people telling me that IB was fantastic, lah. No one ever tells me go like, wow. Those were the
Interestingly,
days.
I don't know anyone who have done who's done
IB? Oh shit.
It felt too at that point in time, 10 years ago. It felt too like experimental.
Yeah.
very much.
Because A levels are proven.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Oh, yeah.
A levels is the go-to.
Yeah.
A levels is the go-to for sure.
torture.
For sure. Yeah, I only knew about IB because I had a hot French professor, and then I just wanted to make conversation with her. And she's like, "I study IB." I'm like, "What's that?" She just
Bonjour.
looked at me like, "You're a fucking idiot."
but you guys are like ADP friends, like essentially, right?
Oh no, man, we come from different walks of life. I did ADP, he did A levels.
Yeah.
A-levels.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Why did you decide to go to the US?
Well, partly I got a scholarship from the Malaysian government. So that's the
shit.
JPA scholarship. So that
Wow.
basically allows you to like take up your studies. There's a whole long story behind that. But anyway, so what it manifested in was I went off to the US to study a degree in economics. I mean, I did apply to the UK as well. But then later on, then, well, my best offer at that time was basically Chicago. So I decided, you know what, let's do it. So poof, then I went off to study there.
I've done something about JPA scholarships. I know back in the day, this is like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, my friends who studied in the UK that had a JPA scholarship, they had something like £1,000 to £1,200 allowance. So I don't know whether you got anything in US dollar equivalent when you were in Chicago.
I'll just say that I had some
Excess cash.
You're not gonna say. You can't say.
Of course you can. I think it's
Everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
well, fun vacations. That's all.
Wow.
But like it's basically also just experiences lah that like I think I'm very glad that the Malaysian people allowed me to essentially have right there. It wasn't like your subsistence level type of allowance or anything of that nature, but it was really like something that allowed me to not really be concerned about like the monetary things as I was kind of going around and learning about the world.
That is such a nice way to put that. That's a lot of money. That's such a nice way. That's such a nice way to
Disposable
put it.
income.
Fucking hell. But
Thank you,
okay,
Malaysian
I
people.
guess. Oh shit, man. Okay. But is there a reason why economics? And before you answer, I'm going to get water for you. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on.
For sure, yeah.
You can answer and I can listen. But why economics?
Well, I always read a lot of different books about economics like throughout my life right there, and it seemed like an interesting field to basically study because it relates to the way that people make choices. Of course, economics studies it in a very specific way. Happy to talk more about that a little bit later on. But for me, it was interesting to think about the way that society was moving, essentially, how people were making choices. And when a lot of people, they think about economics, they tend to think really about how it relates to finance.
Yes.
money,
Yeah.
That was
exchange
me.
rates.
That was me. And I was dodging that shit for 4 years, my guy. And I managed to don't need to take econs. I should have taken it now
It's
that I'm
actually the
older.
study of choice. I find that to be the best.
Yeah, it's branded very badly. But yeah, please continue. Okay, so
For sure, yeah.
Decisions, choice, yes?
Yeah. Well, I later realized, right, that, economics, that degree essentially opened up a whole bunch of different opportunities, like things that you could actually study along the way, which for me was pretty interesting because even though you study a particular major in the US, right, you do, and you guys did study in the US as well, right?
Yeah, I did.
So you do get to explore a lot of different
Other
things.
electives and things
Yeah,
like that. I guess.
definitely.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. They're very encouraging of that, like to do theater. Then you can basically do chemistry 201 and you're just like all over the place. But then when you find your niche, then suddenly you just dive deep into that.
yeah.
You can even double major or you can minor in certain things and all that as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in your case, were you given much of a choice, like apart from economics, for your undergrad?
When you apply for a JPA scholarship,
Yeah.
usually it's in the understanding that you will take up a particular course.
Right.
So actually, it can be a bit difficult for people to, apply, right, for a scholarship and then later switch their courses right there. But I do have some friends who have actually done that in the past. But for me, it was kind of like get into the university, then you apply for the scholarship, get the scholarship, then poof, then off you go. That kind of thing right there.
Okay.
So in a sense, my path was kind of set along the way, right? And then a lot of it was really lots of exploration around that right there. I took the most random classes.
Yeah. But that's the joy you get to do, right? If you're in the US and then the university provides you options. So some universities in the US don't provide you like an extensive thing. Some universities provide you more of a specific thing. Like for example, if you went to like Loyola, right? You know Loyola Marymount?
Yep.
I nearly studied in Chicago too. What the fuck, man? Shit, man.
We could have been classmates.
Yeah, man, bro, crazy. I nearly went to Chicago and then I realized that, actually I kind of prefer I studied in California in SF. Because I felt like the advertising school there, the advertising courses there were a bit more interesting. So I'm like, and all the ad agencies were on the West Coast. The East Coast one too hardcore for me, of like New York and shit. Then I'm like, I think I got more opportunity if I went to the West. Turns out I was wrong. But basically, like different universities provide you a different extensive course type of thing. Yeah. Okay. I touched on how YouTube doesn't really pay us enough, right? Or rather, sometimes it doesn't pay at all. But you came back from the US. So the first question, I suppose, is why didn't you stay in the US? Which is a very typical question people ask, right? Or is it a visa thing? And then later on, when you came back, what do you do right now? Yeah, so maybe you can answer whichever first.
Oh yeah, of course. So part of the reason I didn't stay in the US is, of course, because of the scholarship, but it's also depression. Like probably, and I think that a lot of people don't necessarily like talk about this like a lot right there, but
Is it the
a lot of
H1B?
people really have, no, not really.
Oh.
Like literally just like the experience of being in the US, that kind of thing.
And it's cold.
It is cool, yeah.
Chicago's pretty fucking cool.
It is cool. But you see, the thing is, right, I think that a lot of people adapt differently. Like there are definitely some people out there who can adapt straight away and immediately to the American dream. But for me, somehow or another, even like despite those years, really, like there was always this feeling of wanting to come back home. But at the same time, it was also kind of like tied up with that relationship with like the Malaysian people. And it can seem like dumb for some people out there. It's like, yes, like you're away, just run away lah, that kind of thing right there. No, seriously, like there is this culture out there for people to say, oh, you got a scholarship, right? Oh, then you come back home for what? Walao eh.
Yeah.
Go to America already. You still want to stay back home, come back to this.
I bet you had some friends who said that to you as well, right?
Plenty, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing also is that it wasn't really helpful that, and this is better now. So I'm not making an observation about the current state of the Malaysian government, that kind of thing right there. But I will say that at the time when I was there, right, so a lot of government scholars were just kind of like, in this frame of mind that, you know what, like this country that we're from right here is a basket case right there. And because it is a basket case, therefore, we should not come back right here. We have perfect moral justification to leave this country and essentially pursue a better path out there.
For sure.
But in many cases, right, it's of course a twisted logic, right? Because, for every single person who is here in this country right now and basically like suffering low cost of living, that kind of thing right there, right? The reality, whether we like to think about it or not, is that the people that you are sponsoring, right, are the people that you are hoping upon, right, to be able to make a positive change in some small way. We are not necessarily asking for the moon, the sky, the stars, the universe basically to fold in upon itself right there. But there is a hope
Of
that
some
somehow
form of contribution back to the nation.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my mind, right, and in my heart, that were a lot of things that were kind of like converging together. So that sort of pain of thinking, do you leave? Do you come back? Do you leave? Do you come back? And I remember acting in a play actually, in my third year, called Domestic Departure. I remember even now, this drama, I think it was with the Singaporeans. And basically I played the role, I think, of a dead father, that kind of thing right there. And in that drama, really, like we had this play where basically I would come on for like a couple of minutes right there and then eventually like leave, essentially. This idea really of, well, a child, I think the play was about a child, I can't remember the exact play right now, but a child essentially that had left the shadow of their departed father basically in a foreign land, that kind of thing right there. And I remember playing that role right there and thinking about the home that I was leaving behind and my relationship to the Malaysian people. Many people may not have known about me or may not have seen me before, but the reality is that there is this sort of destiny bond that I do have with Malaysia that I endeavored to essentially play out.
That is so fucking crazy. I would have never had that that sense of empathy. Especially because during our time, if I'm not mistaken, 2013, 2014-ish was the time where I think Najib was convicted for the 1MDB thing going on, if I'm not mistaken. It's around that time, right?
15 officially.
It was like the beginning of
sort of.
the boom.
No, sorry. 2013, 2014 was what's that called? I mean, the MH.
There was also like the post blackout election in 2013.
MH 370.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and at that time, I remember when I was in the West Coast, Najib came to visit us. Yeah, he visited all the US, the Malaysians who were studying in the US. So everybody from the whole of California would and LA is fucking far. It's like 8-hour drive. Would drive all the way to SF. And then I was part of the team that was organizing or welcoming the Malaysians. But I didn't want to be associated with Najib because I was like, dude, it's such a bad name. But I was like, it's okay, I'll welcome the Malaysians and then that's it. And then he gave a speech at that time and it was very similar to what you said. It's kind of like, we sponsor a lot of you guys to go overseas. And, it's not a bad life. But then we hope one day you'll get to come back. And in my head, I was a stubborn kid. I was like, fuck that shit. I want to stay in the US, man. You guys... But I would have never had that sense of empathy.
But you're here.
I mean... not up.
but to be fair, you weren't a JPA scholar. So.
I wasn't. So I'm just but at the same time, when I came back, I grew to learn to love the country as well. And I realized that actually the country has given me a lot more than what I didn't know I had.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like a slow learn thing for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a mixture of that. I would use a Western example, but also an Eastern example right here. So the Western example would be ask not what your country can give to you, but ask instead what you can give to your country.
Yeah.
And the second one right here is actually from an Indian poet, which I would like to share right here. It's my Facebook cover photo.
Shit.
Which basically no, seriously, I was actually that impacted by it. Shared by the Singaporean president, Tharman Shanmugaratnam. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy.
Wow.
It was such a beautiful set of words at that time. And the Indian poet, I don't know what he must have been thinking at that time when he had said those words, but somehow they resonated with me. And even now, they are essentially a part of something that I want to keep as a memory for the future. In fact, President Tharman, shared those words on a podcast that was exactly like this one right here on radio. So there you go.
Wow. Fuck, man. That is
Deep.
Inspiration.
It's deep.
Dang.
That is deep, bro. I felt it, man. The way you said that shit. Oh my God. It really made me think about it.
And then the thing is, you doing it, the play was with Singaporeans.
Wow. Gani.
Oh, God damn,
Yeah.
bro. Okay. So for me, my depression was a lot different when I was in the US. It's because I couldn't find a job. And it's just the whole visa situation. And if I'm not mistaken, it was during the Obama administration where he focused a lot on the science, technology, education, and mathematics aspect of it. So it's impossible for me to get a freaking job there. My brother was smart, but my brother, he opted to do a different type of degree later on when he went to New York. And that's why he got to work in the US under Walmart for a couple of years, which was great. But I made that mistake. So he rectified that whole, shouldn't do mass comm, you should do something else if you want to stay in the US. But he, in the end, too, moved back to Malaysia. And I think he had the same form of sentiment. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Drew, but I think that's why you did it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and the depression was different for me because I couldn't stay. So when I came back, I was a very hateful kid, lah. I think. Yeah.
I see.
Very different. And I went into my job and I did advertising and I hated it even more. But for you, when you came back, what type of industry were you pursuing, or what was the kicker that made you think I want to go back to Malaysia and do this?
After I answer this question, I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh, fantastic. Sure.
All right, cool. So honestly, when I came back to Malaysia, right? So the plan was that there wasn't really a plan. I mean, I was basically just coming back home right here thinking, you know what? Most scholarship bodies, essentially, if you have, 1,300,000 ringgit expenditure upon you as a result of the Malaysian government essentially.
Wait, that was the cost for you to go to Chicago.
Yes.
More or less.
And this was 10 years ago plus.
Yes. And that is the cost basically for almost any person who is going off to a private university in the US. Of course, Chicago maybe more or
Chicago
less
is higher.
compared to-
Chicago is higher. Higher than the other Michigan, Iowa, Ohio states. Yeah, definitely. Oh, Chicago is fucking expensive, man.
Yeah. So, you would imagine that basically there is a sort of plan, right? How are you going to really capture back essentially the expenditure right here? How will you ensure a greater value right here for the Malaysian people? I realized that though, even as I had no plan, neither did the Malaysian government.
What? What is this? You mean they didn't have, because I remember when we spoke to Tiffany, right?
Yeah.
She's a different scholar, obviously, but when she did it, she was saying that she was tied to the Bank Negara.
Yeah, that's the unique part about JPA.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like she took I think the Bank Negara one.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you have to go back to Bank Negara, work for 8
They're
years.
sort of bonded to the
Bonded.
organization.
But JPA is like no strings attached,
It's
right?
free for all. So you came, the government's like, welcome back or not.
You know, I even went off to Talent Corp, right? And I was like, hey, so like, what do you think about this like whole situation right here kind of thing? And they basically didn't really respond at that time right here. And so, yeah, like, honestly, like, I kind of like left it for like a couple of weeks here and there. But then that was where chance struck along the way. I ran an academy that's called Ascendant Academy, and partly, well, the way that I got into it, which is the education industry right here, is through simply going on this website right there, myprivatetutor.my right here, and then saying, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and offer our services right here. So today we basically run a couple of different arms right here. One of them is EnglishFirstLanguage.net. I run a range of different group classes, essentially for IGCSEs, SATs. I offer college consultations and run a couple of like different educational groups, basically A-Levels Malaysia, IGCSE Malaysia, and basically like.
No wonder you're so
community.
well versed in all the various forms of education as well. This is consultation services lah.
It's what we call like hanging out with Kiasu parents. Kiasu parents, Kiasu parents, I love you. You're great. No, but yeah, like so I am aware really of like the kinds of different pathways, right, that a lot of people really like think about along the way. And I did go into it by accident, but it really became something that was of abiding interest to me. This question of how should we educate our society right here? Of course, you know, in the business context. So then that would then be, how do you educate a society along the way while at the same time making sure that you are navigating the line between fun employment and basically like being able to thrive right here? Because there's a distinct difference, right? Like anybody can say that they're an entrepreneur. But then the question is, well, are you essentially piloting the proverbial ship of Invictus? Have you seen this poem before? Like the Invictus poem?
We are not. Okay, I speak for myself. I'm not that cultured, so I don't know if both of y'all can.
Neither am I.
Yeah, so we are.
Okay.
We play football lah.
All right.
No, but I think what you say is very interesting, right? Because your career is not necessarily what you love, and what you love is not necessarily your career, but you're trying to navigate that sense as well, right? You're trying to find, when you go into the workforce, you want to be able to at least,
Oh, for sure.
right? Yeah, to at least have fun lah. I mean, I can't think of any other better word.
All
lah.
right. Okay. So do you mind if I read this?
Oh, please,
yeah?
please.
Okay. Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Oh,
Don't know where I've heard
I know
this
the last part.
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was part of a poem.
a long.
Now you know, yeah. So
Is he basically saying that no matter what happens, you are still taking charge of who you are?
for sure, yes.
of your actions and
So going back then, I think that, well, tutoring offered one particular manifestation of that. So then like really like speaking to students and then like learning about, you know, like what they're specifically suffering with right there, and then kind of like helping to navigate that transition along the way. So then that stood out to me as like one particular manifestation really of, well, making a life essentially in Malaysia at that time right there. But then later on, then Pathways came in, and then thank you, by the way, for subscribing ever since number 500. Thank you for following me despite my horrible
and how,
audio.
You should
and how
check
long
back.
ago was that?
Well, this is more than a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was I making chair videos still at the time?
What? Sorry, what video?
Was I still making chair videos? at the
Chair
time?
videos, yeah, Secret Lab videos, Secret
Yeah.
Lab chair.
Yeah, no, it's
reviews.
before that. I think. I think it's before that.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Even
Wait,
before
did
that?
Secret Lab sponsor you, bro?
Yes.
Motherfucker.
Where's-
No, but like, yeah, so thank you, Secret Lab. But yeah, like that's actually one of the ways that I do make an income as well. I mean, like I do affiliate marketing
Marketing.
essentially for, well, Secret Lab, a range of other companies along the way, including the the company Whisper Flow, which is basically an AI transcription software right there. Yeah, so like mostly when I do write, I use Flow along the way. But then yeah, a lot of it is like really.
I think I've heard of that AI program before. I think somebody has used it. I forgot where.
Oh, happy to show you later.
Okay.
Yeah, link in the description.
Oh my god. All right. So pathways, you were saying?
Yeah. So pathways, right, came along as partly a curiosity to explore along the way, but also partly it was an effort to seek out like the greatest talent really in Malaysia at the time right there. But of course, like talent is varied. It takes so many different forms right there.
Yeah.
You have Olympians, you have people who are just really good at podcasting, for example, like your good selves.
Oh, thanks.
And you also have, like people who are like political leaders along the way.
Definitely.
But at the time when I started Pathways, what I wanted to do was really a mixture of so like I get to talk to like these really, really smart people. B, I get to meet some of my friends because like that was at US Apps, which by the way, takes place at Taylor's every single year during August. If you want to study in the US, then go to US Apps.
Oh, okay.
And also like it was helping really to market really like the services that I was offering really for college consultations and a range of other things along the way. But we've had a very long sort of like relationship over the course of the years right there. So it was August really of last year. And that was like quite a number of years after I had essentially been doing Ascendant Academy right there and taking in students for different...
Bro, you mind speaking nearer to the mic?
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah. It's at the tip. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so I was taking in quite a number of students already, but I figured that, it could be interesting to, seek out really some of the, students really who are essentially headed off to some of the top universities in the world right here. Now, the reason I commented about talent earlier is that I need to kind of qualify this right here.
Yeah.
Pathways is a podcast where you will be able to listen to almost every single student from Malaysia who has gotten into Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and MIT's classes of 2028. Now, the reason I qualify that is that it's very easy for people, right, to look at like your role models out there or like the people that you see on the internet, right, and then think, oh, okay, so like this is the vision of success right there. And I won't deny that maybe going to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, etc., that is one particular manifestation of success. And that was at the time, right, what I figured, okay, so it could be interesting to like, encounter people like that. It was what I had access to at the time. And what I managed to get.
That network. Okay.
Right. Then later on, then that expanded into various other sorts of engagements with like, KJ and then like Lim Kit Siang, Tan Sri Lim Kit Siang, I should say, and then also to Mahathir along the way. So it kind of like naturally expanded along with my interests. Also, in relation to economics. Right. More to say about that.
Oh my god! So that's how you started going into that YouTube aspect of it, and then you have your network to find people who studied in different schools and all that as well.
That's why like the personnel that he gets on is very odd. Like how do you even find these guys? Right?
Yeah. Actually, I was about to ask. From what you've said so far, it's very skewed towards like America, for example. Have you expanded your range of services to the UK, maybe?
Oh, for sure, yeah. So you did A-levels, right? So then you might notice that if you search on Facebook for like a group called A-levels Malaysia, so then you'll notice that there's a person that runs it called Victor Tan. That's me. So, I mean,
So I mean, to drill down, the problem you're trying to solve is to get people to, in a way, know themselves better in relation to educational paths and parents, right? A lot of parents come to you for consultation.
They do. But while Pathways, right, is one particular way to get people to, seek out role models right there. So then like, it's not exactly just like a draw into consulting services. Because I think that it's just fundamentally interesting to encounter, right, the people who are of our country, right? Like we grew up on the same soil. Like maybe we have different households right here, but we had the same nation. We had the same flag. We fly it. We sing Merdeka in a similar way, sometimes softly, other times loudly. But almost every single time when we think about it, we think about that destiny bond with our nation. And so for me, I think that Pathways is a great way of like creating role models and finding people that I think should perhaps be more like seen essentially to the world. I mean, I would say that the videos aren't like particularly popular, but I think that that's fine because like in and of itself, right, there is an intrinsic good to finding, well, people who are essentially taking what we have in this country and then molding it to become something internationally competitive, something that, well, is acknowledged by the world. Because the fact is, if you are going to one of those universities, then you are, in a sense, acknowledged by the world. Like you're one of the top 0.0001% of this world, intellectually speaking. It doesn't preclude like other kinds of success right there. But again, that's just something that I had access to and was able to really, well, talk and exchange views about right there. And I look forward to what's ahead.
I think what you offer as well, right, is okay. You know how people have like a hero you look up to? Like for example, you look up to, let's say, Barack Obama, example. And you always want to be a good speaker like him. And then when you look at a role model like him, he's so far away. He's so far away, right? So when a role model like that is so far away, you feel like it's almost impossible for you to reach that goal. So I think what you offer as well is a very reachable mentor, if you will. Because sometimes if the kid is in, like, let's say, Mana Utama, and he's just doing his Form 4 and he stumbles upon your YouTube channel and he sees someone that goes to like Stanford or he goes to MIT and he's his dream to study in the US in one of these big 4 or 5 schools. I think it's a very reachable goal because that way you can sort of shape your education in a way, or you can work a bit harder, or you can network a bit more, you could reach out to your parents, and the information is also accessible in your YouTube channel. So I think what you offer is also more like a reachable goal for you to step to the next mentor, if you will. I think it's a brilliant way to.
It's like pairing like mentors and mentees together.
Yeah, and it's very reachable.
Sense,
yeah, because these people aren't. I mean, I'm not throwing shade on them or anything, right? It's not like you are Barack Obama, but however, I think you could be a very valuable asset to this kid, right? Sure. I think it's a crazy thing that you offer, honestly.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, now when you break it down like that, I'm like, oh my god, that is fucking genius. Pardon my French.
You're too kind.
No, man, it really is, bro. You know. I sound like an old fuck lah. I mean, all of us are around the same age lah, right? But back in 2010, we didn't have access to this shit. You just had to go to a consultation services, the service
Agencies,
center.
yeah.
I remember in ADP there was a lady. Her name was Kelly. And bro, if Kelly wasn't there, I don't think I know what I was going to do, my guy.
Shout out Kelly.
Shout out Kelly, man.
Yeah, Kelly.
Right. Even remember how we had to Google which school is decent.
Yeah.
You had to like
I hate education fest. Such a
and everybody's
so dreadful. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think looking for unis, it's best done through your own research. Back then lah, in 2010.
But it was so tough,
Yeah,
bro.
2011,
It was so tough. And you know, when you're reaching out to for example, like all of us when we study abroad, right? It's very difficult because the person is abroad. So when you shoot out an email, it's like, I'm going to shoot my shot in the dark and I pray to God that this guy is going to reply.
So the British system was slightly different. You had this thing called UCAS.
UCAS,
It's an intermediary agency where you apply through up to 5 unis at a time. So then you
That is
either
so
get
You need to
legit.
write a letter. What do they call it already?
Personal statement.
Personal statement,
Personal
yeah.
statement, all that
We
stuff
had to
lah.
do that too
Yeah.
to the US, but ours, bro, each school was an admission fee of like $50 to $100. You remember that?
I remember that, yeah.
And you had to send as many applications as you could, as you can. Send as many applications as you can. You send to like 3 of your top schools. You want to aim for, like, for example, I wanted to go to Syracuse University.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to Boston University, and I wanted to go one more.
Boston.
Yeah, because their ad schools were like top of the top, right? And then I had 3 like normal schools, which was SF. I went to SF in the end. Then I went Loyola Marymount, and then a school in Colorado. And then there was a backup school. Like if all else fails, this is the school I'm going to. I'm going to a state university or whatever fuck lah, right?
Yeah.
And each school you apply to, personal statement, banking statement, your visa all completed. Do you remember that shit?
I remember that shit, yes.
And per application, bro, it's as thick as this. It's as thick as this, you know.
I mean, let's be fair, right? It's
Bro, it's true, right? You send like a document as thick as this
yeah.
biscuit thing, you know.
yeah.
Wow, yes, indeed.
And it's like $50 plus
Correct,
per application.
Yeah.
And you pray when they reply to you in the mail.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't used to email, right? They used to mail it back.
Have you seen those American movies? And they're like, oh my God, it's here.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh my God. And then they open.
They start-
that is my life, you know. When the huge thing comes, right, you're like, oh my God, I got accepted. But if it's a tin, you're like, fuck, I'm done lah. I'm done lah, fuck it lah, I'm done.
Thank you for your application letter.
And the US has two admission periods, right? It's in August and it's in, was it January? January intake and August intake.
So depends on the
school, but-
way that you want to apply, and it also depends on the school. So like two different factors along the way. So like the when you want to apply thing, maybe I'll talk about like the type of school that you want to apply for first. Some schools, they offer what we call rolling admissions. Basically, that means that they accept applications like throughout the entire course of the year.
Okay.
Right there. And there's a little bit of variation like in deadlines, like here and there.
Yeah.
But then also there's a couple of common like application schemes that you can go for. Like one of them is what we call early decision / early action right there versus regular decision right there. Basically, even if you don't remember those words right here, just know that people who apply to US, like they can actually apply a little bit earlier on
during your semester and all that. But your GPA doesn't really match, right? Because the moment you apply earlier, that would mean your GPA is very different from when you complete that first 2 years. Correct.
So when we say apply early right here, okay, so maybe we might have to break it down a little bit further right here. So what I'm talking about is like just admission to like say a 4-year university course. So that we're not talking about like say transfer or anything of that nature.
Not transfer.
No.
Okay.
Like first year admissions to top universities, which some people they might prefer, right? Because well, there are some schools that don't really have like your transfer partnerships kind of thing to those schools, and it can be very, very difficult to get in via transfer admission. So they prefer sometimes
straight just start 4 years. But that's a privilege, my friend. That is a privilege only applied to people who can afford 4 years in the US.
100%.
Yeah, and that's why our twinning program I feel is beautiful. I think like Inti, Taylor's, all these schools, Sunway, they have that twinning program which saves a lot of money. It's like almost a 50% off type of thing.
Definitely.
And at the same time, their credits are general that can be transferred to a lot of schools. So the unfortunate thing is, for example, like the Malaysian English standard is not as high. So we would have to take the TOEFL examination or the IELTS in order for you to apply, right?
You still have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS to apply to an American university as a first year student. Yeah.
First year. But if you transfer, then you third year. I transferred as a junior, bro. Even that I still needed to do. Because in Taylor's at the time, I think English 101 or 110, I forgot. It was not good enough. Yeah.
I see.
So I have this thing. If I take a step back and I look at what you're doing, so you have mentioned earlier about your burning desire to come back, contribute to the country, right? Right now, your services is extremely noble for the folks that are trying to get out of the country or
really
to try to get themselves educated. But do you have down the line, do you have like an idea to get them back into the country to contribute?
What is the incentive, man? Like
I mean, obviously there's Talent Corp for that, right? But is that something that you are exploring, or is that in your roadmap at any point?
Brain drain. You say that what I do is noble. Well, I would just say that there are various ways to interpret it. In fact, just the last week I was at the Khazanah Megatrends forum, and an upper leadership member of the Khazanah leadership came up to me after having heard about what I do right there, and he said, "You're promoting inequality."
Really?
Why?
It's true. No, because
Can I get his point of view?
Well, the point of view is that like if you are going to be offering educational services, right, then of course like the question is, if you're going to do so, to offer essentially tutoring right there, then you are offering a sort of like advantage along the way. And it's undeniable. Like there is an advantage when it comes to like say getting into top universities.
Yeah, because you know how to get in, but you have to pay to know how to get in.
You do, yeah. So like a business won't survive, right, if there isn't enough money in it. So if you say that basically like it's noble, I can understand that point of view. Yes, it's true, but it's also a fact that like I do benefit from
Oh yeah,
being able
I mean
to
for sure. I'm not discounting the fact that you are monetizing whatever you're doing, right?
for sure.
But I mean, it's just the act of, because I've been, or rather, John and I have been the beneficiary of someone like you, like Kelly. I had my own Kelly. I forgot her name. I shouldn't have.
It's all right. Don't worry. Shout out to
Shout out to Rex Kelly.
You say Sarah.
Right.
Shout out to Sarah.
So I think what you are doing, in my eyes, I think it would really help like an 18, 19-year-old. They have absolutely no clue what they're going to do, how they're going to do it.
It's
Yeah,
for me, right? Okay, look, the guy might say you're promoting inequality. He's not wrong, okay? But I'm like, bro, you want to do this equality thing, right? You pump more money into me, right? I'll expand my team, and then we go out there and we help people lah. You really want to do it, right? Let's fucking do it, man.
But to build on both their questions and statement, like what are the fees like in terms of if someone wanted to get your services? Because the guy can say inequality, but he didn't even ask like how much actually charging.
Yeah.
What would the burden, quote unquote, be for someone who wants to work with you?
It would average out to about 500 hourly. Yeah. So I mean, of course, there are going to be like different packages like here and there, which I would offer right there. I do feel that it's a fair value essentially for the service which I am offering along the way. Of course, you know, if you aren't really going to offer that essentially for like say a one-on-one right there, which is understandably right, like out of reach for a lot of different people along the way. But at least for me, that represents a fair valuation of my time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, well, I do understand, of course, the idea, right, of moving beyond really that sort of like hourly thing right there towards being able to create stuff that is like more affordable, available, or otherwise beneficial. And that's one of the reasons why I've started moving into like online courses along the way.
Yeah.
So like you have platforms like say Udemy or otherwise, and I also do sell digital products along the way as well. So, I mean, when it comes to like hourly involvement, investment, consultations, that kind of thing right there, there is a limited amount of time that we do have. And I do.
What's the average number of hours that a client would get typically, right? They would get from
2
you.
to 3, maybe.
So like not just 2 to 3, it's like probably around like
per session, right?
per session. Oh no, like 2 to 3 would be like they'll be like
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Bro, my one with Kelly damn long. My God, bro.
wow dang.
But Kelly was,
Why did you piece this
but
together?
you know, I don't think, I don't know whether yours was the same lah, because ADP provided it.
right, yeah.
So when I paid for my tuition fees in ADP, it came as a service. I can just go to an office or I schedule an appointment.
sure, yeah.
So I was like, whatever lah, you know. But if you're not in that setting, I think it's a very fair price lah, bro. Honestly,
Understandable.
I mean, if you're ready to invest $500,000 in your kid,
what is 500
I
ringgit
don't
lah,
think
bro?
500 ringgit an hour.
yeah, bro. And that was 10 years ago lah. 1 mil.
Yeah.
yeah.
And the step down in terms of pricing for digital products, what's the...
When you say step down,
Because I
in terms of,
presumably it's more affordable,
right. Yeah, so like I sell ebooks on average for about $15 like per ebook, thereabouts. And then I also sell memberships on my site, englishfirstlanguage.net. So then that is currently priced at $25 monthly. And also there is a discount, right, for like 1 year. So like $165 for like, say an entire year, which gets you access to like a range of different resources along the way. So it's more affordable lah. Then there are also like different kinds of packages along the way.
I think
haven't
that's
gotten to the
quite
point of like
fair, man.
But then how do you respond to that Kazana guy when he said, "Oh, you're promoting"?
no, like he's a good dude. So like I was like
Metaphorically.
no lah. It's just kind of like a chance interaction lah. Like it's kind of like you kind of know, like I kind of know, like it is in a sense promoting inequality, right? But I mean, what I have known all this while, right? Not just from like just life in general and observing human beings, is that, well, when we think about like say inequality, right? In a sense, it is an inevitable thing right there. But well, I would kind of frame it in terms of like the Rawlsian argument. And Datuk Hisham, if you're listening to this right here. So inequalities in society can be justified as long as the people who are the lowest in society can essentially have their lives benefited per essentially what Rawls argued in the theory of justice. And behind the veil of ignorance, that is what we would essentially promote. So that's my response.
I think we need to dumb it down a little bit for at least for me lah. Okay, I'll be the guy lah, right? But basically, what you're trying to say is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Ultimately, if you were to help the people achieve what they want to achieve, they in the end give back to Malaysia, and then in the end it brings everybody up. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I will say that the people, right, who are going to go like far and fast, right? Like they are going to go far and they are going to go fast. Like that's an unquestionable thing right there.
Because they have the resources to do so.
They do, yes. And that's like basically part of the facts of our society, right?
That is life.
That's
right
life,
now.
yeah.
Right? That is the
life,
construct of life right now. Okay.
That is a construct of life. But at the same time, right, it is unacceptable if, right, like we as a society are saying, you know what, we are going to let that go out of control. And then we don't care about like the people who are disadvantaged in our society right there. So when we talk about, say, inequality being justified if it helps the people at the bottom of society move up right there, what I'm saying is that like those things are interlinked, right? Like the people who are most successful and the richest and the most powerful in our society, right? Like you can be as rich and powerful and amazing as you want to be right here. But have you heard of this house in India that's called the Antilia before? Like, I think that provides...
How do you spell that?
Antilia, the Antilia.
Antilia House. Which part of India, bro?
So it's in Mumbai on Billionaires Row.
Okay.
So Antilia.
Wait,
so
like, Nick's gonna Google that shit. He's gonna put it up on
Is
screen.
it the one where there's like this contrast of the slums and really rich people?
It's this
Exactly.
just really tall erected tower that it's owned by Ambani, I believe.
Yeah. So it's the house of Mukesh Ambani.
yeah.
And so like if you can get it on the screen, actually, I think it'll be pretty
Antilia.
interesting. Yep. So like, you know, the cost of that thing is $2 billion US.
2 billion.
Yeah. So it's like this right there.
2 billion.
$2 billion US.
Okay, I've seen this.
That is the house right there.
It's a house.
Yeah.
The whole thing is a
it's
house.
It's a
Yeah, the
private
whole
residence right there.
The
And
whole
just-
thing.
Yes.
One fella's house.
One fellow's house. And like, just imagine, right? So the point I'm trying to make right here is, if you look at like, say, the Antilia right there, that's
This
like
guy looks like he didn't use the
2 billion.
stairs.
What'd you say?
This guy looks like he doesn't use the stairs. I'm just saying, man.
Mr. Ambani. No,
Shit.
but like, the reason I bring this up right here is that like, okay, some people might say that like that is a situation that's unjustifiable. Now, I'm not saying whether it is justifiable or not justifiable right there, but basically the guy has a freaking
Cinema.
3 helipad, air traffic control, family residence, maintenance floor, guest apartment, swimming pool with spa and gym right there, while the rest of the people around the slums can barely afford water, bro. Like, are you seeing this right here? So like, the reason I mentioned the Ambani house right here is that like, imagine this, right? Like if all of society were like this right here, where basically like billionaires live amid squalid poverty, right? I think that would be...
But that's not Malaysia, right?
That's
the
not
thing.
Malaysia, exactly.
Far from it.
Far from it, yeah.
There's trash in Bukit Damansara also, you know, in some of the rich people's houses also.
Yeah.
They're not inside, but around.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea of the Antilia right here, well, kind of like compared to like the slums, right, might be an example of what we might say is unacceptable, right? Like if we were to get to that point where really every single person around you is like basically like living on like 2 ringgit like vegetable, 2 ringgit per day vegetables like from the market that have been like thrown away type thing right there, I think that we would agree that that's unacceptable.
Yeah. But I don't think Malaysia is in the state
We are not.
anywhere close to what he just described.
Yeah,
I don't
definitely
think
not.
we're anywhere near close to
Yeah,
that.
definitely not.
Yeah.
I think even if you come out, you might get stabbed. I'm just saying. So I don't think you want to live in a society like that, lah.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that like inequality, right, can only be justified if that kind of situation right there.
Yeah. Arises
I'm not saying that like that is exactly the situation right there, but it illustrates it quite poignantly.
Yeah.
But inequality can only be justified if it does not lead to a situation where billionaires, right, find themselves awash, right, in an island of wealth amidst a whole bunch of like people who are tremendously poor. Somehow or another, we need to be able to raise the people around us. That's what I truly believe. And
I think so too, man. I think so too. But I think it's also like, I feel, okay, maybe I have a lot of hope for a lot of Malaysians, and I've grown to become a person like this, yeah? So bear in mind, right, if you go to John 10 years ago, I'll be like, there's no fucking way this is going to happen, right? And this is 10 years later, I find that a lot of people here are very kind, right? And sometimes, like, when you reach that level of wealth, they give back in ways you just don't see, right? A lot of people do. I think we are a lot more forgiving than a lot of people around the world. I feel so lah.
Sorry, not that you mentioned all this on the conversation of inequality. I have to bring this up. I stumbled upon this channel on YouTube. It's by Scandinavian people, and when it comes to econs, somehow their voices are not heard enough, right? Because the voices are typically, you know, America or China and all that in terms of economic model. So I think all of us. I found it really interesting, this one. So the Swedish were the 4th largest economy at the peak of their powers. A lot of people don't know.
When was
this. This is probably like 1800s, early 1900s.
Shit.
So they were one of the earliest people to hit what is called that? First world status.
Oh, Sweden.
Yes.
Swedish people.
Correct. So they did a study for Sweden, and then basically they asked, does material wealth make you happy? Okay. To what extent and all that. So they charted, right? They said when they look at Sweden, it was almost 1-to-1 until the 1960s.
That was very specific.
Yeah.
What happened?
When they had reached a point where the material sort of
Wealth and
was pretty good. And then after that, the happiness just flatlined while the per capita income just went up. So at that point in time, the 60s was about 2000. So if you fast forward the inflation numbers, that means in today's dollars, that would be about 21,000
oh my God.
US dollars.
Per household.
Yes. Now, why this is interesting is because
is kind of
when
wild.
you look at the societies, let's call it Asia, where they have blown past that number, they tend to be quite unhappy societies. Whether it's South Korea, of course, you have Singapore, to an extent, Japan.
Hong Kong maybe also. Yeah.
Yeah, Hong Kong. And interestingly, because the East Asian countries are typically the wealthier ones in Asia, the country that has blown past this figure, but the least, to me, is the least stressed among all of them, which is Taiwan.
Oh, they are beyond 21?
Correct. So why this is important for Malaysia is that I don't even know whether this is linked to what we're saying, but I just thought I needed to share. And then maybe as an econs guy, you appreciate. Malaysia, we're currently about 13,000. So we are about 2/3 our way to this number. What I'm trying to say is when we talk about growth in Malaysia and all that, we have to be aware that we will pass a point, right, in which we will lose, what you were talking about, that kindness, that all these
shit.
things.
You think so?
Yes. So we all talk about how we need to catch up. Like Singapore's per capita is like 80,000 or whatever it is today, right? It surpassed America already. But it doesn't necessarily bring the same unit of happiness. So it's true where we are today. That's why we all get a sense, right? We as a country, we need to earn more. We need more money, and we'll be happier, which is true. It's a correct intuition. But I just want to warn Malaysians that there's a point in which that will not be true anymore. And I think I did some back of the envelope math. I think when we hit 24,000 per capita income, which is slightly under half, double from where we are today, we should, not to say zero growth, but we should accept.
This is
Plateauing.
Yeah, because if the minute we go more, we will get more wealth. We would, I don't know, maybe we'll be a nuclear power, whatever, right? But we will not be, you can say we will not be Malaysians anymore. Very interesting.
Maybe we would be a product of our time lah.
Yeah.
You know how like we talk about our parents being a product of their time? We would be a product of this time lah.
I thought it was very interesting because we're actually what I'm saying is we're actually closer to the Goldilocks zone
of nice
of economies.
yeah.
Yeah,
in comparison to perhaps like the ASEAN folks, maybe
so what do you mean in comparison?
in comparison to what you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Where are we like?
Oh, I mean, ASEAN is very simple, right? Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia.
Yeah.
So Brunei one is a bit of a cheat code because they have oil.
Yeah.
So it's just Singapore, Malaysia. So in a sense, we are almost, and you can probably bring Thailand in as well. We're almost in a category of our own. And of course, we have a lot of Singapore envy, right? But what I'm trying to say is that Malaysians should only probably achieve a third in terms of per capita income of what
True.
Singapore has achieved. Because anything beyond that, really, then
You might change a lot of what the culture is.
Our PISA ranking might be higher, our income all that higher, but we are not necessarily going to be better. off.
Conceptually, I think as a society, it will start changing. That's what you mean.
Yes, but we all get that intuition, right? Like material, if you have zero material wealth, you are very unhappy.
Yeah.
But we also get the same intuition that we have extreme levels of per capita wealth, we are also very unhappy. But what has not been, to me at least, what I don't know is that precise point. Right, it's like the whole conversation on the Laffer curve, which is the study on like what's the right tax rate, right? So there is no equivalent for income inequality until I saw that Swedish video, and they were arguing that we achieved
that Goldilocks zone.
No, they didn't achieve it because they blew past.
No, but what you're saying is we are sort of possibly in our Goldilocks zone.
Yeah,
right?
yes, but Sweden blew past the Goldilocks zone in the 60s really because that's when the happiness unit and the income started to diverge. Today, Sweden is like 50K US dollars per year.
But do you think Swedish people are happy?
Oh, so there's a joke in Sweden. They are one of the happiest people in the world.
I thought it's Norway.
But they also have one of the highest suicides rate in the world.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But someone asked them why are Swedish people so happy? And then the joke, or it's like half joke, is like, because all the sad people kill themselves.
That's fucked up.
So it's a survivorship bias. It's literally a survivorship bias in practice. Like because
I see.
Only the happy ones.
I don't think that's the same for Japan. A lot of Japanese kill themselves too. But they are not happy lah. A lot of Japanese people are unhappy, bro. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. So Japan is at about 30 to 35. So you can see they've blown past it already.
I don't think I know a lot of happy Koreans.
Exactly. Koreans are about 32, 33.
I don't even know a nice Hong Kong person.
Hong Kong's 50.
To be honest, I only know one nice Singaporean. Maybe two.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's because, it's wealth lah.
So I feel like as Malaysians, we need to know our targets properly. Yeah. Okay. And we're actually not that far. We just need to double our economy, which at this rate, 15 to 20 years.
What say you, Victor?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this? Do you feel?
Let me start off by something controversial for all your viewers.
Okay, please. Let's stir shit up.
Drop it.
All right. Here's a question for you right here. What do you think is the friendliest country in Asia?
The friendliest country in Asia.
Friendliest country in Asia, yeah.
My experiences have told me that so far Indonesians are probably the most friendliest.
Okay. Then okay.
Wait, are we all going to answer?
I think it's either, I want to say Thailand.
Yeah, probably Thailand, but the most pleasant experience I've had is Taiwan.
Oh, Taiwan.
True.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, you are right on the money.
Oh, yeah?
The friendliest city in Asia is Taipei, Taiwan.
Yeah.
High five.
My uncle
Nice
just went to
job.
Taiwan. My uncle just went to Taipei and he said everybody's so fucking rude now.
Huh? Number 2 is Singapore.
Plot twist.
MJ might question the source of the.
No, I have half question. I'll half question.
But so that's a kind of like starting gambit right there. But thank you for sharing, by the way, Gani. So like you're absolutely right. Like the idea of income basically having a divergence from happiness definitely makes sense. I mean, like, because that's what we call like diminishing returns in economics right there. Yeah. I mean, like, basically, if you are starving and then you have like one McDonald's burger right there, damn, bro, like that is amazing. Oh my gosh, like I've been brought away from starvation right there. Like my entire body and soul have been redeemed from death. But then you eat like 5 burgers, that kind of thing right there, like bro, like oh my god,
Too much.
No.
Okay.
No. This is a first world problem right there. But so like I have another interesting fact for you right here. So so the happiest country in the entirety of Asia is let me tell you the Taiwan ranking right now. It's actually no, like let me tell you the Malaysia rankings. This is a Malaysian podcast for a Malaysian audience. So Malaysia, what do you think Malaysia is ranked as?
In Asia?
Yeah, within the top 10. I'm just gonna say that it's within the top 10, but like what do you think it is?
Probably
Right?
6.
Yeah.
Six.
I would say actually maybe 3.
3.
Because I think if we're looking at city, right? But I think if you look at across the country, including Sabah, Sarawak and everything,
Yeah.
Okay.
generally speaking, I think people are quite happy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think 3.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I have your guesses for top 3?
Top 3.
Top 3, yes.
I'm going for all the homogeneous country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably
Indonesia lah.
probably Thailand first.
Yeah.
And
And then
Indonesia.
I might go Indonesia second, and third Asia.
Actually, to be fair, maybe I discounted
Taiwan.
a lot like
Yeah,
Laos,
Taiwan.
Myanmar.
Yeah.
But then
I wouldn't go
war
there
now.
because it's a war-torn country.
Yeah,
so
that's probably not the best idea right
yeah.
there.
Fuck man, I still think Malaysia is top 3 lah. But I feel that Thailand and Indonesia lah, but not Singapore lah. Yeah. Singapore because it's small, it's a city. It's a city country. So I think majority of people are just like competing rat race type of thing.
And also because I will usually, if Singapore is ranked high, I will usually disagree with the data. I know it sounds very irrational because I travel there. So I literally have on the ground experience.
Yeah.
It's like saying the United States is a rich country. Yes. But if you go to SF, right? The classic Twitter headquarters, super nice. Drug addict.
Yeah, that's something.
Malaysia.
It's a good thing that you mentioned that because like Singapore is number 1 on this list. Singapore is the happiest country
So
in Asia.
you know it's
It's not a legit list.
No, see, that's the thing, right? Like, the reason I point out these lists in the very first place is that when it comes to say understanding the economy or just understanding statistics in general, one thing is that, well, you can use in many cases, right? Like pretty much any ranking it is that you want right there.
Correct,
It's very natural that people go ahead and do that right there. Some people trust some rankings more than other rankings, that kind of thing right there. But then the question is, whom do you believe? So like, and that's actually a pretty kind of like nuanced question right here. Because like being able to develop that skill set, right, which is something that I'm passionate about, inculcating to my students, hopefully also to my viewers, is like, how do you understand the world? Like, like from, beyond all those assumptions. Because a lot of times like people will tell you Singaporeans are rich, but also they are money loving, or essentially like they do not care, that kind of thing along the way. Or Malaysians are intrinsically happier, that kind of thing right there. But one of the things that I am passionate about is kind of like moving beyond, right? Like those kinds of paradigms to see that, well, at the end of the day, right? You may not really know so much about the world as you might think right here. And sometimes like, statistics, they can offer us a kind of like comfort. Like our country is better because it plays higher on this ranking, or their country is maybe better, but we are still better because we have better durians than them, kind of thing along the way.
Durians, okay.
Yeah. Are you durian people?
100%.
Yeah.
I fucking love durian.
all durian.
I mean, I like durian. I just stopped eating durian for a long time.
Oh, fuck.
Durian Chendo for me, man.
Oh,
Durian chendol.
And Jonker Street. Oh my, that's different. That's different.
So yeah, I mean like I think that rather than focusing too much on rankings or like say statistics and how like they're shaping your thinking about the world right there, I think it's great. I think it's great to see things from multiple perspectives, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of make your own decision. But then more important than that decision about like what you really see in the country is like, how am I going to make it better? You could be like living in the middle of like hell, basically, or in purgatory. But then the question is, right, like, will you accept the situation that you are in, or will you try to make it better? And I know that you have something to say.
No, I don't.
Oh, no.
No, I'll just...
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Where does
that's
Malaysia place on that list?
Malaysia is number 8 on that list, and that's the en.tempo.co listing in case you guys want to.
And when was it?
That was 2024. It was voted the happiest country in Asia. So Singapore was voted the happiest country in Asia for 2 years in a row, according to the 2024 World Happiness Report. And it was ranked 30th out of 143 places surveyed for this research. So it's actually also a reminder, right? Like, you say best in Asia, right? But then like when we think about like say in the world right there, so 30th is basically like not super high, right?
Yeah.
So then like, yeah, like if you are basically
The happiest in the fuck fest, then I mean, good for you lah, right? That's what you're trying to say, right? Yeah, because I fucking agree. Okay?
There you go,
I
yeah.
swear, man, you know what makes these lists popular? It says.com and World Bus. That's what makes these lists popular. Other than that, right, actually
sure,
nobody
yeah.
fucking looks at these lists. One.
Yeah.
nobody will actually even give a fuck, right? Because we're all living in their own bubble, right? Until, right, when you really go there, and you live your life there, then you truly know.
The vibes. It's the vibes.
It's the vibes, man. Yeah. So I think it's a completely different thing, lah. Okay. Do you have any other questions first?
I do have a question. Remember, I asked,
I was gonna ask. What was my question? You were gonna ask me.
I am going to ask you a question.
Okay, sure.
Okay, great. Right now, you are sitting at this table right here. We're in Malaysia, in essentially your incredible studio right here.
Oh, thanks.
Cha sessions right here. Nice vibe right here.
Thanks.
But yeah, the question is, go back 10 years in time to the John that was basically in university at that time right here, knowing what you know now and everything that has gone by so far. Would you repeat that exact same process of life, or would you want to change something?
This is a question that I always ask myself. I always think, like, if I go back in time, would I have made a different decision? And the answer, right, will ultimately tell you whether you're a person that lives with regret or a person that's lived a fulfilled life. So I am a kid, right, that I was just having this conversation with the Comrade Confucius last night as well. And I was blessed by my parents to make a lot of decisions in my life. And because I was blessed with this ability to make decisions so early, right, I have learned that decisions come with repercussions and consequences. And that is when I learned that I don't want to live with regret, right? So short story, long story short, basically, right, I probably would have lived the same life. I probably am a person I make safe decisions. I like to meet new people. I probably would have started doing YouTube because I didn't like what advertising was giving me. It was like clients telling you what to do. And I just don't like that. I kind of want to do my own thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? So it was kind of like my creative output. So if you were to turn back time 10 years ago, not such a grateful John you were encountering at the time, but I think he would have done the same thing to reach where I am today. Yeah, probably lah. Don't you think? I don't think I would
Knowing
have.
John for a very, very long time, I think even if he would have deviated a little, I think he would have been here today as well.
Yeah, almost the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like the same group of friends.
Probably.
That kind of thing right there.
Yeah, I just
Like take the entire timeline back and then like imagine that you have a software and then you can rewind 10,000 trials kind of thing and you've experienced every single one right there. It's kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Like, do you feel that you would repeat life? Or do you think that you would change things?
No, I would not move a single needle that has happened over the course of last 10
Wow.
years. Yeah.
It's admirable. Okay.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
I would say that I won't regret, but I would look at decisions where I had sufficient information to act on, but I didn't. But it's still useful in this current timeline because of what you learn from that. I feel like what I could have done and should have done more so for the future rather than I wish I could go back and things like that. If I was younger, I'll probably say the younger I was, the more regrets I have, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Usually the older you are, you get more regrets, right? So for me, the younger I was, the more regrets I had. But the older I get, the fewer the regrets.
Right.
And it's just an emotion, right? The regret. But if you strip that out, what you're left with is just the process of the decision making and then learning like what you could.
I have two regrets now that you are.
Whoa.
One regret is I wish I spent more time with my dog. Before he passed. He just passed this year. I was so fucking sad. I was
sorry to hear
destroyed. Yeah. I wish I spent more time with my dog, spend an extra minute every time I spend with my dog. Second thing is if I could go back in time in 2019, I would have bought that pair of Onitsuka shoes that I really want. I've been thinking about it. Motherfucker.
Why can't I buy it today?
Bro, it's out. They don't make it anymore, my guy. Wait.
Yeah, I know someone who could get it for you.
Whoa. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
Cool. No promises, but
That's one of the few regrets I have. That one, I've been thinking about it a lot, man. Bro, okay, I want to ask you a question while I look for that pair of shoes in that photo, right? But where do you see your channel going actually, bro? Because are you just going to leverage on this database you have for people who go to different schools and then you get to interview them? And at the same time, right, what do you feel about people going on your channel? Because I think we have developed into this society from I want to be famous online to I want to maintain my privacy online. So what's the feedback for the people? That's the first question. And the second question is, where do you see your channel going?
Great. Thank you for the question. So the first part I'll talk about is, feedback from people. So I go to a lot of different educational events. I think I mentioned US apps a while ago. So I also went recently for the general meeting of the alumni of Malaysians in the International Science Olympiads. And basically that's like a gathering of basically all the Malaysians who have won like medals in like the IMO, IPHO, so on and so forth right there. I use these right here to illustrate just the people who tend to watch my videos and like give me feedback, right? At both of these events, I had people come up to me and then like, ask me kind of some like similar questions right here, saying that basically, so like, what do you think about like the direction of your channel right here? Or for example, can I take a picture with you? What I saw on your channel was really inspirational. It was really helpful. In WhatsApp groups, sometimes I get like messages saying like, oh, like that was really cool. I learned a lot from like watching this specific person along the way right there. And I think that that's really inspiring along the way. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier about like this idea of like intrinsic motivation or like of this, internal sort of like good right there. To expand a bit more on that for the audience right here. So when we think about what we mean by intrinsic motivation right there, so like that's different from what we call extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic is like a lot more
money,
intuitive for a lot of people out there. Like for example, you do something because, for example, it offers you maybe like monetary reward. Or like, for example, you go out there and you do something, right? Because you know that you have something like particular to gain from it right there. So in reality, I think a lot of things right there are both intrinsic and extrinsic right there. Like there's no like clean separation. So on my part, I think that it is an intrinsic good to speak to a lot of like interesting people along the way. But again, as with the education thing, I can't deny that there are definite benefits when it comes to, that. I mean, like they are essentially external benefits, but like I don't know if I'm pursuing them like just purely because like they offer like the prospect of like say vast fame or like vast amounts of money or anything of that nature right there. But I think that really what I would love to do is to basically move in the direction of meaningful, social commentary and like be able to not just inspire people, right? But to be able to in some way shape or form, right? Be able to create narratives or to essentially move forward in, shaping the direction of my society in some small ways, right? Recently I was at the Khazanah Megatrends forum right there, and it was basically this whole forum, right, that gathered together like basically all of the top business leaders from around Malaysia. Like literally like one of the people that I met right there was like the founder of like the most valuable startup in the entire country right there. The Prime Minister officiated it. Khazanah basically officiated it. The heads of the 3 major GLCs, EPF CEO, KWAP CEO, and then basically also you have PNB CEO. All of them were sitting on a single panel next to the head of research of Khazanah right there. And it just was an event, right, that had this very interesting topic right here. Can you imagine? Okay. For a topic, right, with such high profile people, right, like, can you guess what the topic might be? Like,
oh my God, is it happiness?
Happiness?
Is it Malaysian happiness?
Okay, go. Okay. Malaysian happiness. All right, what do you think?
No, I have.
That's a lot of. I mean, you're setting the context of it's a very out there topic.
It's very out there topic.
I'm just. I could have said
Happiness.
Pokemon,
I'm
but
just
I'm
going to
trying to be
go
logical.
extremely generic. Something about AI.
Oh, that's so cringe.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm just looking at the panelists.
I know, but like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know, like education maybe.
Okay. Cool.
Is it happiness? Happiness, AI, and what's your one again? Sorry.
Education.
Education. It's happiness.
Potatoes.
Are you fucking serious? They talked about potatoes.
Yes, potatoes.
Is this Spud Bros? Because I've been.
Potatoes. Okay.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Is it agriculture?
Pursuit of potatoes. No, but like there's a sort of like metaphorical point there though. The reason being that potatoes actually were a very important crop to China essentially of like the past generation. Why? Because potatoes essentially like they're extremely high yielding crops. Basically you put in like a little bit of like nutrition right here, fertilizer, whatever.
And
like,
they'll
essentially
sprout,
come out right there. Then they'll
It's like
provide
the
nutrition.
Martian, bro. Yeah, you know, Matt Damon. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Science.
Top man.
Yeah.
But so the potato, right, is a simple, apparently small yielding, like high yielding crop right there that is hardy, robust against environmental challenge. It isn't easily destroyed, despite, well, the incidence of weather or anything else of that nature right here. But that single potato right there, it serves as a major source of social stability within the entire nation of China, a country of billions of people right there. Imagine that basically during what we call the Great Leap Forward right there, basically because people were misreporting, and this is actually like some additional context which maybe like some people don't really know about. During the Great Leap Forward, basically, well, what happened was that, well, it's an actual event. You can Google it right there.
Great
Leap Forward.
LEAP forward.
Yes, forward. Yeah.
When was this?
This was
60s.
Yeah, around that time right there, during the time of Mao Zedong. So then what happened is that basically people were just corrupt in a small way right there, or basically like self-serving. Officials were basically misreporting the amount of like rice collection that essentially they were getting. Yeah, in their respective counties or provinces right there. So, cause like they were incentivized in the wrong way right there, and were incentivized on the basis of like, does your province actually like bring in food? Like it's the same equivalent of like, does your province bring in money? Essentially right there. So like everybody kind of like tallies up to the total, and then that becomes the Chinese GDP or whatever have you right there. But they misreported it. As a result, then basically China thought, oh, we have way too much grain or rice, we can sell it. That's what we call the illusion of superabundance.
Oh, so they over-report, you mean?
They over-reported, yeah. So the illusion of superabundance, right?
Great leap forward.
Yeah. So then what happened, right, is that, exactly, that one right there. So the result of that was, all right, so do me a favor, like click on that Wikipedia article. Got a Wikipedia
The first
article?
one?
Yeah. So like go down. Deaths. 15 to 55 million people. It was the worst disaster in the entirety of China.
Wait. So for context, right? Because they over-reported what they had. They believed that they had too much rice, so that's why they decided to sell rice. And because they sold rice, up to 55 million people died.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is Chairman Mao's legacy.
Yep.
A big chunk.
55 million people dying under your name in the best lah.
That's like so like you might think that it's a very small thing, right? Like a corruption like that right there, but it resulted in 55 million people dying. In a similar, so like basically that's like the reverse of the potato. The potato basically ensured stability and growth and like progress for the society.
So sorry, I know we're going in that direction of you explaining the potato. So let's hold on to that. Why the fuck is it called Great Leap Forward? Isn't this a great step backward? This is a fall, bro.
Because when the CCP came to power in 1949, they wanted to leapfrog the Western nations in terms of industrial power. You know, last night, I told you about how like they wanted to overtake the UK in steel production.
Yes.
So one area is food lah, right? Not necessarily to overtake steel West here, but more like to supply the whole nation. And because it was collectivization, meaning everything was centralized, you couldn't charge the price that you want to charge for your rice and all that. So you couldn't make a profit. That's the thing.
So basically so let me just correct this. It shouldn't be called the Great Leap. It should be the Great Attempt to Leap Forward is what you're saying.
No, the Great Leap backwards lah. Just call it.
Okay.
That's what I call it.
All right. Because
there were price controls. So when there are price controls and there's a need to hit KPI for a number of grains you produce, they will want to over-report. Because why would I create so much rice if my price is controlled?
Yeah, I would do the bare minimum to meet the bare minimum or maybe even keep some fucking rice.
And it's not just the deaths are not just that they exported rice and people died of hunger. There was also because then the officials caught onto this, so they started like punishing them, killing them.
Oh my fucking!
And I think the worst one was the worst story. The worst story was this actually. A dad was forced to bury his 13-year-old son alive. Because the 13-year-old son stole some grains.
Oh boy.
It was that bad. And then there was rumors of like cannibalism and all that.
Yep. Wow, Gani, you know your Chinese history. Dang.
Bro, wait. Why the fuck why did he bury his son? What?
Because the son stole food from the central granary. Because remember they had to hit.
I
the
know,
KPI.
I understand that
So
part.
the dad killed the son because
He don't want to have more punishment, is it?
Yeah, the consequences.
No.
of the punishment
Sorry.
was
The official told the dad to bury.
kill-
Oh, Jesus.
my.
Yeah. It's by this author called Frank the Cotter. You can go and read his.
You see, this is why I have this podcast, because I'm like that caveman who sits in the cave and then people come and tell me stories
No,
about
but
the world.
you know what's the
And I'm
funny
like,
thing
thank
is,
God.
This was all of this was an instruction from Chairman Mao. So the thing is, everything can be blamed on him as well. Actually, there's another. You know that steel one I told you. This guy, because he did not trust scientists, Western scientists, because back then the West
So TCM.
was, no. You know what I did? He was trying to get the steel production for the country to improve.
Yeah.
But there was no expertise, nothing, and he didn't want to trust outside help. So all the Chinese like peasants and all that, they were taken to go and figure out how to make steel. So they were just taking scrap metal, trying to produce steel that didn't really
Trying
do
to
well.
bond some shit together lah.
Yeah. Some alchemy basically, right?
Yeah.
So then somehow he got this idea that the reason we cannot produce good steel is because of sparrows,
Like birds.
birds. So he called everyone to kill all the sparrow that they can see in China.
Oh.
You know what happened after that? Because of that, he disrupted the food chain.
The food chain somewhere.
So a lot of like pests existed, started to multiply more, and so crops become
Crops.
harder to. 55 million. That's why.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And then all
guy-
this,
Brilliant.
and he's on their banknotes.
Yeah.
And it's still called the Great Leap Forward.
And they still embalm his body, and they still worship the guy. So
Yeah.
中国是第一, man.
All right. It's fun.
Sorry we deviated so far, bro.
Yeah.
But okay, you were saying the Great Leap Forward?
backwards.
Backward?
Yeah. So that's an example really of, well, a simple way in which like small
Reverse potato.
apparently reverse potato type behaviors right there. Things with small consequences, right, can actually result in
Catastrophic.
reverberating and catastrophic circumstances throughout society. And so, yeah, I mean, like when it comes to the potato, then that ensured social stability while basically, yeah, like something like killing sparrows. Yeah. So like, thank you, Gani.
But
It's a real story.
But so why were they discussing this at the
Kazana.
at Khazanah then? Why potato? Is it because are they looking at investing in the potato industry in Malaysia?
Or was there a focus in?
Or is
like,
that a metaphorical thing? Or?
It is a metaphorical thing. It's a metaphor for how, right? Like at the end of the day, like there are some things out there which we think can be small or otherwise, right? Imperceptible. Like when we think about, say, a potato, right? Like do you grow potatoes in your home?
Do I own potatoes?
You grow potatoes in your home?
I don't.
Okay.
But I should at this point. I don't know. You're making it sound like I should, but okay.
No, but the reason that they focus on this right here is to really like get people to start thinking, right? Like what might actually be the small changes that we might need to do in our society in order to move ourselves forward. Like, is it, for example, to eliminate corruption? That's something that we are doing. Is it, for example, to maybe like think a little bit better about how we can be kind to our neighbors so that we can ensure that there's a greater harmony within our society right there? Is it, for example, changing certain aspects of the education system? Is it, for example, maybe,
raising taxes collectively?
Maybe, but that definitely has to be that definitely has to be like something to a debate right there. But it was an invitation really for people to start thinking about these issues on like sort of like societal level, and it's a goal that I would like to encourage along the way. Even as we think about, say, the question of education, which is something that I'm passionate about, I think one thing that I can do in this podcast is to call for all Malaysians to start thinking right about the small, minute change that we can make in our societies through pathways. Like I try to do that by creating that single moment of inspiration, or maybe like that rabbit hole for people to kind of like go on a track of inspiration that eventually leads down the pathway. It may not lead necessarily to like working directly with me, although that is an option, but it can also lead in like the other pathway, right, towards doing research on your own and then like finding out the very best that the internet can actually offer right there with local examples and with people who have, again, from the same soil, right, grown up as a potato. I'm sorry. Grown up into what they are right there. I've often thought about the differences between nations as kind of like, like the differences between like different groups of, shall we say, plants almost.
Okay.
I'm not even joking.
all right.
No, really though. Like, I've always thought of like, for example, Singapore, for example, as a kind of like garden right there, while Malaysia is more of like, you have like a collection of wild plants, some of which, of course, will end up becoming like super, super amazing. We have this national culture really of, going out there and saying, oh my gosh, walao eh, what can I gong ah, that person ah, what Malaysian ah, oh my gosh, Mr. Hot Tan, oh my gosh, highest paid CEO in the entire world, Malaysian, but he's not living in Malaysia. But at the same time, like you have also like these people in, other fields,
Oh,
like
speaking
these,
to the mic, bro.
yeah. You have like all these people in like different fields right there that are admired.
Yeah.
But, it's always with a tinge of that small sadness, right?
Yeah.
That we say,
They only
these Malaysian-
thrive out of the country, that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
like Robert
Yeah.
Kwok and Michelle Yeoh and
Michelle
Ronnie
Yeoh.
Cheng. The list goes on.
But
lah.
to be fair,
Okay.
Robert Kwok did thrive here before he thrived even more when he got out.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And Zhang Toy, right?
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
Yeah. So, what you always thought that you always felt like Malaysia was this place of like wild plants where Singapore is a garden. Can you elaborate on why you think that distinguishing factor is? If we are wild plants, why is Singapore a garden then in your mind?
One of the greatest factors that decides, right, how much talent there is in any given society is the total size of the population right there. So like, for example, right, like when you think about like a school, for example, let's say that there are 1,000 kids. You can imagine that there will be 100 kids that are smarter than the rest of the 900.
Yes.
Believable, right?
Yeah.
You can call the 100 kids level 2 and then the 1,000 like level 1.
900, but yes.
Yeah. So then like maybe you can say that like there are 10 kids that are smarter than like the 100.
Out of the 100.
Out of the 100, yeah. So like then we could say that those are level 3.
Okay.
There is one person maybe like in the entire school that's smarter than everybody else. That's level 4, that kind of thing right there. But you see the thing is that Singapore, right, even though it has a population that's much smaller than that of Malaysia, it produces more IMO medalists, IPHO medalists, so like International Math Olympiad, International Physics Olympiad, and it produces like regularly essentially these admits, right, to say the top schools. Of course, like that's one way of measuring essentially excellence right there, not the only way. But the reason I say that Singapore is kind of like a garden in a sense right there is that there is a structured method of like cultivating people from the very beginning of their lives right there. A very small example right there is like something that I took from Kishore Mahbubani's memoirs right there. He said, and I'm not sure if like anybody actually out there has seen this already, but he was saying that he was essentially underweight in Singapore. And then he was led to a random pail with a bunch of other schoolboys right there. And then there he was given a ladle basically of milk to drink.
Okay.
And that basically like helped to fatten him up along the way. Fact, in Malaysia, right? So one of the big problems right there is, well, kids essentially that don't necessarily have like the capacity to learn because like they maybe like lack essentially the sort of like nutritional basis essentially, or like the sorts of like things that are conducive towards learning like in their biology. Because like you can think of like education basically as like a function of like the kind of training that you had, right? But it's also a result of the culture that you have in your family. But also, right, like is your brain or is your physicality actually like suitable for it because you are well fed on a day-to-day basis? And is your brain actually like making those connections right there based on the resources that have been allocated into the development of your psychology and also
your growth?
Yeah. So small things like these right here. In Singapore, essentially, that entire process is an end-to-end process. The entire thesis of existence of Singapore as a nation right there, as an island effectively, in the Straits of Malacca, right, is the development of its human capital. That is what essentially allowed it to develop along the way. And I've always admired that story right there. With Lee Kuan Yew, I read every single one of his memoirs, like thousands of pages right there, in sort of understanding this right here. Well, for Malaysia, the reason I say that it's more of like a garden of wild plants, right, is that there are definitely efforts, right, to kind of like, well, cultivate really the people who are like talented right there. And but I would say that, so yes, there is some watering that's going on right there. There is basically some identification, like some methods to basically make sure that those people will thrive along the way.
GPA scholarships.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So like we can't deny that exists, right? But I would say that, well, it's kind of like a lot more sparse kind of thing. So like there isn't really that whole society approach along the way.
It's not a system in which like you basically bring up the overall. Where you're saying it's sparse because watering is done like at different spots and it's not consistent and everything. That's why.
For sure, yeah.
I see.
I mean, Singapore can be critiqued as well in some sense. Some people say that it is a highly kiasu society, and there is always a race to the top, which is exemplified in like certain schools, like say Raffles, Hwa Chong. And I can go on right there, but I feel like this podcast will last for like 5 hours.
No, for sure. But you see, right, I think what we also don't really see is how the trajectory of where a lot of countries go. I think like if you look at a lot of first world countries, right, the education may have been top notch. I think resources allocated also top notch, but then it leads to this form of like, you know what, I think we don't want to have kids because we are very... So I have this theory, I know I'm sidetracking, so let's just hold this conversation about how, you know, Singapore and Malaysia and the trajectory of education, so let's just hold that, right? But I have this theory, right, that in the end, do you watch Terminator 2? Terminator 1, the Arnold Schwarzenegger ones. So there's this theory of like machines will take over the world and everything, right? And like I have this theory, right, that AI already has watched all these movies countless numbers of times, right? To the point, right, they realize, right, you know, there's always going to be a John Connor. John Connor is always going to win, no matter what machines do. So you know what we're going to do? We're not going to make it look like it's a fucking judgment day. We're going to take it away slowly. We're going to make it so that their lives are so easy that they don't want to have kids, because when you have kids, it's too difficult. And that's how society collapses. Because you just don't want to have kids, and that's how humankind goes extinct. You don't need a bomb. You just need to give them what they want. And you're going to make it real fucking comfortable. And then in the end, they kill themselves because they just don't produce. So I'm going to go, that's my deviation, right? Okay. If you go back to this whole Singapore is a garden and Malaysia is a wild forest and all that, knowing a lot of first world countries like Japan and Korea and Singapore and all that, even in Taiwan, when they have reached that level of like efficiency or I don't know, like that perfect system to create a customer in which it can serve the overall structure of society. I can purchase things, I can buy better products and all that. It's a very capitalist driven structure, right? In Malaysia, I don't think so. I think it's their pockets, like you mentioned. There are pockets of people, and the MJ also is saying, like, you know, maybe perhaps we're in this Goldilocks zone.
Oh, we're approaching.
You know. I think we are in.
It depends on which group you're in.
That's true. Yeah. So I think, what do you think about this then? Like maybe, you see, Malaysia can easily copy a lot of things that they can do next door. It's not like you can't. You know, even the toll system is like, bro, until now I don't know why RFID, touch and go, all this. You can literally just buy a second-hand system from Singapore and put it here, but we don't. Why don't you think we do that then?
Thank you for the beautiful transition.
Terminator.
No, really though. So the Terminator thing, like some interesting thoughts right there for sure. I mean, how do you know that even the Terminator movies aren't a part of their plan, so that human beings become complacent while watching the movies and then become like happy in thinking about the whole situation right there
maybe they were just slowly indoctrinating us over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, they are like the humans will always win. So therefore we don't have a strong urge to like fight against the machine.
Maybe they don't even want to win. They just go like, you know what? We don't even want to be here. But have you used ChatGPT to the point they tell you, I don't want to do it?
Ooh, you should read that one New York Times piece right here, which was written by Kevin Roos, where basically the Bing chatbot basically goes out there and then goes wild. It basically like is apparently codenamed Sydney right there, and it goes on to essentially talk about how it is in love with the person who asked questions right there. No, seriously, like there's a whole long conversation along the way, and like it is wild. Like basically, when we say like ChatGPT doesn't want to respond, that's a very normal occurrence right there, right? If you basically say things that are against the content policy, basically like you go out there and then you start talking about like say things that are clearly asking it to produce illegal content, like how to make a nuclear bomb, like basically like how do I like, for example, like perform like a covert operation to break into the Federal Reserve or stuff like that right there. Of course it's going to say no, right?
Yeah.
But then another question might then be like what would happen if we were to be unable to like process things? And by the way, right, I've always believed that human beings are the weakest link, like just purely on this conversation right here. When you think about like say a lot of like say sophisticated banking systems, anti-scam, like whatever have you right there, like why do they exist? They exist because human beings are freaking gullible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but it's not only just gullible, right? But it's also like there's a huge amount of like say social engineering along the way. One of the reasons why education is so important. But like algorithms basically decide the kind of information that we receive. Links basically all around the internet decide what kinds of information it is that we can access within that associative hypertext protocol that eventually decides like how it is that we get information all around the internet along the way right there. And really like you are essentially the party that is most constrained by your own gullibility along the way right there. So like I don't know whether machines will destroy our society or if we will destroy ourselves first.
But the question not involving the Terminator thing, but what do you think of us not like replicating what Singapore and the rest of the world do? Then?
For sure.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why I mentioned earlier, right, this whole notion of like Singapore being the happiest country, really. I had to like kind of like do that in right there. Part of the reason why I mentioned why that Singapore can be seen as the happiest country in the entirety of Asia right there, right, is to kind of raise a question, right? Like how well do you know like Singapore in the very first place? And also the sub-question to that is how well do you know Malaysia in the very first place?
Yeah, that's true.
We grew up basically we're all Taylor students, by the way. I wish that Taylor's had a school style, but unfortunately it doesn't. We grew up so like in various ways, like we are like products of privilege. Like we had essentially upper middle income families right here, to the extent that you can go to Taylor's, like that's probably like the setting, so to speak, for most people. And in virtue of that, right, so we had access to, probably a vastly different type of society compared to like a lot of other people like in Malaysia. If you think about it, the very fact that we're speaking in English right now is possibly like an example of privilege. Because like, I mean, how many people out there in Malaysia would be able to converse in English in this way? So like, I think before we even think about like the question of should we adopt things that will change our society, right? There's a first question that we might want to ask ourselves first. What really is our society? And if we are to basically like have a comprehensive picture of it, like how should we do that? What do we need to know? What should we, have in terms of like conversations with the people around us in order to develop that understanding that we can actually begin to understand it in the very first place? Now, one of the corollaries really of the whole Singapore being the happiest country in Asia thing right there is that, you hear it and then you start to have to ask yourself, right, in what circumstances could that be true? And maybe your brain is led then along like a couple of like different pathways, one of which is basically that it is not true, it's false, it's a lie. But then like if you were like somebody else, right, in an alternate reality with a different set of assumptions and you're open to the possibility that in fact Singapore is one of the happiest countries in Asia, then you start saying that, oh wait, maybe they are actually happy in that way right there. And maybe there is something to learn from that. And I would say that in terms of like, say, implementing changes right there, one thing I would say is maybe a good start is beyond really like trying to understand ourselves a little bit further, right? We might want to, from there, start thinking about how we can, move right forward, advancing whatever metrics it is that there are to really essentially advance along the way so that we can achieve like certain meaningful goals. in the same way that basically Malaysia is currently in what we call the middle income trap, defined essentially by my university senior in the mid Gil in a paper many years ago. I met him actually like just a couple of weeks ago. So like in the same way that maybe, so like upper middle income is between $4,466 to $13,844
for household income.
We're almost about to break it.
We're about to break it.
Yeah,
and in fact, Apurva Sanghi, the World Bank chief economist, actually predicted that assuming that exchange rates do not change, then Malaysia will eventually hit that threshold within the next 5 years along the way. So then Apurva would perhaps also say that like there's no intrinsic reason as to why it is that we have to focus on being high income. And I heard exactly what you were saying. In fact, in a conversation with him when Internet came over to KL. And I thought that was like an interesting point right there, right? Because like maybe you've heard this proverb before, but it goes something like, what does it, and this it has its origins in Christianity, but I think it's relevant for the entire world right here. What does it profit a man if he should gain the entire world but lose his soul in the process? And I believe that that's what you're kind of like alluding to, right? Like what happens if we change like aspects of our society, we implement
and
this
is it even
that.
necessary, right? Yeah.
Is it even necessary to implement or change along the way? And to that, I would say that society is a constantly changing thing. It's not a single, shall we say, monolithic structure. It's built from the collective hopes, dreams, desires, wishes, and aspirations of an entire people that is constantly being shaped by the influx of information that is constantly going in and out through every single conversation, every single link access, every single video watch, every single minute that people spend on the internet or in conversation.
Yeah.
It's a constantly evolving thing right there. And during your interview with Ms. Po Yi, you were talking about how she's a mega Charizard, right? Well, our society is like, basically, you can think of it as like a level 100 Ditto. A level 100 Ditto right there. That is basically like, I don't know, like maybe it's like being trained in like some way, shape or form right there. But like, like maybe it's like on the verge of like being included in another game, and then like maybe like Nintendo is like saying, you know what, like we're gonna like rewrite the entire canon right there so that Ditto becomes a legendary Pokemon or something of that nature right there. Society can transform, you know, like in just gigantic discontinuous jumps, or it can transform like really bit by bit. As John Green had once said, I can't remember exactly what that John Green quote is, but I will now use ChatGPT.
Wow.
What is that John Green quote that talks about how falling in love is like a sudden thing along the way? Please elaborate and explain for me.
Wow, that's quite crazy how you use that so often via
I
voice
do, yeah.
as well.
And the quote basically, it goes from The Fault in Our Stars, and it says,
Oh, The Fault in Our Stars is a book.
it's a book, yeah. It's a book that's also a movie.
Where that girl who dies or something.
Right?
Yeah. And that guy who puts a cigarette in his mouth doesn't like it, that type of thing.
I fell in love the way you fall asleep, slowly and then all at once. I do this, by the way, in like lectures or whatever have you right there in conversation. But yeah, so like for all we know right there, I mean, before we even question, you know, like, should we do this or should we do that? I think the question is, have we already changed? I mean, like...
That's true. Actually, by now, right? Since...
Yeah. So like, I mean, when Facebook came along, so like maybe we didn't have a sense that society had changed. When maybe like your internet connection went from like, say, 60 kbps over to like 100 mbps, did you know that society had changed already? Like, did you think of it as a change, or was it like just a small upgrade along the way?
It was never overnight, right?
It was never overnight. But
yeah.
So in the various ways, ever since our birth right here, even though we say that maybe our country, our nation was always a static and never evolving construct, maybe somewhere along the way, it had already transformed so far and so fast beyond anything that we could have ever imagined, that it was already a vastly different creature compared to what we had ever known before. And I'd like to close what I'm saying right here with a final quote, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, so like it's from actually the late psychologist Carl Jung.
Carl Jung. Oh,
Carl
shit.
Jung, yeah. So like, in fact, the chair that I have in my room, I have a collection of ergonomic chairs.
You have are they all secret lab?
No. I have So I have Mahathir's chair downstairs. It's
Sorry?
Mahathir's chair downstairs. It's a Herman Miller era.
Why did you get his chair, John?
Well,
I only got a signed shirt from him. I didn't get a chair. I wish I just took it. What the fuck, man? Did you just take his chair? Did you ask?
no. It's the same type of chair.
Oh, it's the same type. I thought you just went, hey, Tun, hope you don't mind. Just walk out with this fucking chair. Gee, I mean, it's not like a 98-year-old is going to chase after you, right?
He's 99 now. He'll be 100 next year. So. But so like, when we kind of think about so like the chairs that I have right there. So like my chair is actually named after Carl Jung's what do you call it right there? The Red Book. Amongst other things.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, what I'm about to say is not really from the Red Book in itself right here.
But it's a quote from him.
It's a quote. Yeah. So that summarizes like the way that I really think about life in general right there. So it goes something like this right here. We are a psychic process which we do not control or only partly direct. Consequently, we cannot have any final judgment about ourselves or our lives. If we had, we would know everything. But at most, that is only a pretense. At bottom, we never know how it has all come about. The story of a life begins somewhere, at a particular point we happen to remember. And even then, it was already highly complex. We do not know how life is going to turn out. Therefore, the story has no beginning, and the end can only be vaguely hinted at. When I think about Malaysia, I think of it in those terms right here. How do we even know what Malaysia is?
And what it was, and how it started, right? Now that you say that.
You can say that, like it started when we had independence. Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah.
But did it really? Right, true, right? What the fuck, man? We were technically the Malayan land, right? Mm-hmm. Was Malaysia only truly Malaysia when Singapore left? Whoa. What the fuck, man? Was Malaysia only truly Malaysia when Sabah and Sarawak decided, hey, man?
Yeah, so, I mean, so the point again is, if our society is not something that we truly ever knew at the outset right there, then maybe we shouldn't be focused so much on what it is or has been. We can only say that, something has been something for a period of time right here. Like maybe you could look at a timestamp right here and then you could say that, so like we've been talking for maybe like 45 minutes and 24 seconds. I don't know if that's actually true. But like along the way, like despite not knowing really how long this conversation has gone for or what particular or possible topics may come along the way, the question is, what would it yield in the future? I think that's the most important thing. If you're watching this video right now, then the question is, after listening to all of this, then what would you like to do in the future for this country is what I would submit. Yeah. Wow. Or your own life.
Actually, I think honestly, right, this is a fucking beautiful way to end the podcast. But I still got like a couple more questions. Serious, bro. That's a fantastic way to end it, though. Oh my god. But maybe I can speed run 2 questions. You guys got to go right at 3. I remember it's like almost 3:15.
Maybe in a couple minutes.
Okay, I got like 2 more questions if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go on.
Sorry, I just got a couple more questions. I hope you don't mind. Okay, so first question is, I through your YouTube channel, you've gained a lot of like unique and very big time guests as well. So like for example, KJ, for example, to them and all that, right? What was your methodology and process in getting those guys as guests on your podcast?
There was never really a uniform process.
Did you just send a letter? Did you just slide in the DMs? Like what?
It's a mixture of networking along the way and also random occurrences.
I can tell you how we got to an M.
How?
Okay, so basically, what one of the hosts, his name is Poige, he told me that he wants to interview big time politicians because he felt as if he would enlighten us with why the education system is as such and everything like that. So I look, I'm not a guy that aims big. I'm the guy that does things. I'm not a sales guy. So I trust other people to do it. Whatever, I'm fine. So Poige is this guy who is very, he oversells in some ways. He's saying that, Yamcha Sessions is #1 podcast. Well, fuck, this is not the case. This guy oversells. But I'm glad people oversell. He got a couple of politicians on. It was Nalina Nae, it was Sai Sadek. And then later on, he basically is not very shy about asking. and he would ask for contacts, and that is how we got to Tun M. He basically asked me to write a Surah Rasmi. I then wrote the Surah Rasmi.
that, yeah.
And then he just made it sound like we were the best shit, like with the next sliced bread lah, basically, right? And then that's how we got Tun M.
That worked.
Yeah, by some fucking miracle lah. But how did you manage to get KJ? Because I think KJ's time now is very different than then, right? He was former sports minister. I doubt he remembers me because I was actually there when he was sports minister and I helped him launch Axiata Arena, right? But that time, I don't think the guy is looking around lah. He's trying to do his job lah, right? Then he becomes a former health minister, and then only after the whole election, and then he's out of BN and everything. Now, did you only contact him after that, and how? Was it through a network? Was it an email? Was it what? KJ.
Instagram story.
Are you fucking serious?
Yes.
On Kelas Kejap Insta.
No, it's like I tag him in the
dropped
Instagram
him a
story.
DM.
I mean, cause like if you notice, right, like if you tag him in stories, like okay, the fact is I've been tagging KJ in Instagram stories for like the longest time right here, and there's a story behind that because like one of my favorite quotes in the entirety of Malaysian politics can be attributed to KJ. So KJ, if you're watching this out there,
I doubt
right
KJ
here,
watches it, but okay.
you never know. I mean,
Okay.
like, yeah.
So what's his quote? Oh, it's on ChatGPT cannot.
There's a fun interaction between KJ and Lokman Adam right here. And yeah, so basically Lokman Adam said, you better don't have this kind of finger pointing attitude. Otherwise, you'll never become president of UMNO. So then KJ responded, you better pray that I don't become president of UMNO because the first thing I'll do is sack you for having the IQ of a carrot. I've loved that quote for like the longest time. I just keep tagging him right here and I keep seeing scene. Then later on, then I was like, okay, I would like to invite him for pathways. Like, how do we do that? Oxford education, PPE, whatever, right there. So I was like, okay, how should I do it? I think Instagram could be a good way. So I asked Gan Ming. Gan Ming said, oh yeah, he uses Instagram. Then at that point, then I was kind of like set already, right? I kind of knew, oh, you know, like he'll probably respond to an Instagram message along the way. Well, not really an Instagram message, but I decided to do it in I wrote a message basically, and then I screen recorded myself trying to send it, failing because the character count was too high. And then later on, then he responded with a thumbs up emoji when he saw that story. And I was like, can I actually interview you? Then he was like, oh yes.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But
I also like how you just casually referenced on Kang Ming.
like, oh yeah.
I think Kang Ming was like, it's just like almost a first name basis type of shit.
Okay, Dr. Ong. But yeah, like so that's what happened. And then with Tun M, it was kind of like I interviewed Datin Noor Azimah Rahim, the education activist, because again, like I am interested in like the broader question of like education, right?
Yeah.
You might notice actually in my Tun M interview, I asked Tun M about PPSMI. That is indeed a sort of like shout out to Datin Noor Azimah, who has been advocating for English language education for the very longest of times right here, in recognition of the benefits that it has to our society at large as we sort of pursue our new ambitions and the horizon of expectations that comes along with those expectations. So yeah, I asked Datin Noor Azimah Rahim, and then she put me in touch with
I see.
the secretary. After which I had reached out, and then boom. Then we
I
had,
see. I think we were in the same building also. That's the one near in Taman Botanica nearby that one, right? Is that where you did the podcast?
I saw your podcast. It was basically
I think it was in his office or something like that.
his office, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like it's near, what do you call it right there? Like the Perdana Leadership Leadership Foundation, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. So when you did your Secret Lab chair review, right, at that time, were you already in contact with them, or like did you just decide like I'm gonna fucking get a Secret Lab chair and then I'm just gonna do a fucking review? Because like, you know, for the longest time, like I basically used the TT racing chair and I loved it up to the point that it started peeling and I'm just like, oh my god. So this is a personal question. Like, do you think a Secret Lab chair is worth it?
Yes.
Oh fuck, serious?
Yes.
Why? Can you sell it to me?
Use my link in the description.
I mean, if they want to sponsor me, sure, man. But like, I'm looking for a new fucking chair, and my chair has been like fucking my thighs up at the bottom, bro. The sweat, right, from polyester is just destroying me, bro. Because I got eczema. So at the bottom of my thighs, when I sweat, it's just a fuckfest down there.
Okay.
I doubt they were going to sponsor a guy that curses more than 3 times per sentence. But like, I just want to know why it's worth it.
I don't think Secret Lab is going to be good for you, given your situation.
Oh,
because
serious?
I don't think so. Yeah, because you said that you have eczema, right? Now, the fact about Secret Lab chairs is that, first of all, so like, whether you get, so like if you are going to get a Secret Lab chair, then like I recommend that you get the soft weave type chair right there. That's a more, shall we say, breathable
cotton
type
instead
of
polyester
material right there.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you were to get like the what do you call it right there? Like the PU leather right there, then like that will cause you to sweat and it will probably exacerbate your situation.
I'd never recommend PU leather ever.
Yeah.
It starts to peel over time anyway, right? No matter if you're Secret Lab or whatever chair, right?
I honestly don't think it's made for our climate.
I don't think so
Absolutely not.
either.
Yeah.
I don't think so. That's why, right, when I got these chairs from IKEA, I just like, oh my God, I always had to sit at the edge of my seat.
Yep.
And it's just like destroying my thighs every time, especially I get on my chair, in the car, and whatever lah. So you're saying if I get the cotton one, it's much better?
Better,
But why is the Secret Lab chair even better?
So
Is it ergonomically better for your back or like what?
there are a few things to consider. I mean, like, I don't know if it's going to be a perfect fit for you right here, but I will say that, like, when we think about a chair that's going to be good for you right there, so you would consider like the mechanics of the chair and how it naturally accommodates your biomechanical movement during the course of the day right there. Generally, less stress on your body is better than more stress right there. The reason that a regular chair would maybe not deal with that is that like maybe it doesn't accommodate the natural way that you
lay back or
to sit down kind of thing. These chairs are great, by the way.
Oh, thanks. I wish IKEA sponsored me. These chairs are great, man.
They're great, yeah.
Yeah.
But so Secret Lab, right? So Secret Lab respects the fact that like there's going to be a range of different body types. Accordingly, there are different sizes, small, medium, large,
their
XL.
sizes are far.
Correct. So like actually if you watch my video about the size, choosing a size right there for Secret Lab chairs, then you'll actually see like the considerations that you would take into account. Like for example, like the distance between like your
hip
like
to
your
the-
hip to the bottom of your knee, which is what we call like the popliteal length, essentially along the way. So then like you can kind of like put yourself into like a bucket for what kind of size is going to fit you right there. But yeah, so apart from like the sizing, they also have like sorts of adjustments, right, that relate to how we naturally sit in the course of the day and what is going to be optimal. So like ideally you want to be able to move around in your chair, and also you want to be able to, well, make sure, right, that when you sit, essentially your spine is supported. So Secret Lab basically has like this adjustment mechanism that allows you to
press to make it inward so your lower back is rested, is it?
Right, but it's not just inwards though. Like there's a what they call a 4D lumbar system. So then basically there's a flexible spine inside like the chair, right? That can move
That holds
both
it in
upwards.
place according to how your backbone structure is.
You sound like you own a Secret Lab chair.
No, I mean I'm in the industry lah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're in the economics industry. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how that works. But the thing is, if you're looking for something that is maybe more tailored, for example, for upright, shall we say, sitting, right, then Secret Lab is a good chair. In fact, like the entirety of the SGAG team, in fact, in Singapore, they use that particular chair. But I feel that some aspects, right, of like other kinds of chairs may be more suitable. If you are, let's say, like, constantly sitting straight up right there, then you may want to get like, for example, steel case or an Aeron or something else of that nature right there. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to know because a lot of people like I know feel like they want to get a Secret Lab chair and then they're like, no, it's too expensive for that. Yeah, so in the end they default to the TT one.
Yeah.
But TT just looks like a racing chair, but in the end, I just feel like it's just a regular chair. That's what I feel.
For sure.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, bro.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You want to do a shout out or anything for your? I'll link your YouTube description and your YouTube in the description below, and I'll put your Instagram. Is there anything you want to shout out? Anybody you want to shout out?
I want to shout you out.
Oh, thanks.
And thank you. No, for sure. Yeah, no, like thank you for having me on this podcast and also to share my story. It's not very common that I would go ahead and do that. And I wanted to also encourage you like on your journey as well. I think that you've been on this journey, like you've interviewed like a lot of different guests, like for example, Fahmi Fadzil.
He doesn't remember me, you know.
He doesn't remember you.
He sat in front of me for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then I was helping him at an event. He didn't
Yeah.
recognize me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, like, hopefully, hopefully you remember. He actually helped me file a legal request to Meta for removal of content a while ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he remembers me though.
I don't
but
think
he did personally. So
Oh, damn. That's very nice of him.
yeah. Then you also interviewed, I think, like what Hannah Yo, Sadiq, and so on, so on, right there. So, but yeah, like again. So a shout out to you guys. I hope that you keep doing what you're doing right there. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I hope that this was in some ways a beneficial
I learned so much.
conversation for you as well.
Enjoy the thought process, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a journey, bro. It made me feel things I didn't know I
I think
could
it's the
feel.
first time we had poetry.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, you might be right, mate. Actually, I never considered that. What fuck, man. I think you're one of the 3 or 5 Malaysians I know that are into poetry.
Oh,
Kind of wild. Yeah. Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming on the podcast, brother.
Thank you so
man.
much.
Yeah, man. All right.
thank you.
Dude, crazy, man.
Guys, we would love to stay in chat, but we're going to zoom.
Go for it, man. Are you going for the...